Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Brad Etlin here. This is Chicagoans at Home Talkin' Shop. And again, Brad Etlin here. I am a residential and commercial realtor with Kale Realty. Good afternoon, Dan. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. We have our special guest today is Dr. Dan Hidaka with Harper Health. He is a concierge physician. I hope I got your title right, Dan.
You did.
All right, enough practice and I get it right. Good stuff. So how was your weekend? How are things going this week?
Weekend was good. My wife didn't have to work. My wife's a pediatrician, and so whenever she doesn't have to work, then I don't have complete childcare duties, which is a plus in my book.
Beautiful.
Although she came down with some like fever and some symptoms of COVID, so we actually screened her over the weekend for COVID. Luckily, she was negative. It's one of the benefits of being a physician, as I can just put in the order for her, and she can go and get tested.
Right. Oh, well, glad she's okay. That's scary.
How was your weekend?
It was good. I actually had some time alone with my girlfriend, which doesn't always happen. So we lots of walking in parks and hanging out at close to the lakefront, and that's about it. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So again, welcome to all of our guests. Good afternoon. And again, I have Dr. Dan Hidaka, concierge physician with Harper Health. And I know we have a lot of questions lined up for you, but I'd love to just talk to you about, get to know you a little bit better and ask you a couple fun questions before we dive into it, if that's okay.
Sure.
All right. So your favorite Chicago restaurant?
My favorite restaurant in Chicago, when I used to live in Chicago, was Cafe Iberico. My wife and I used to go there frequently for tapas.
Yeah.
Once you move out to the suburbs, the cuisine is quite limited compared to what's available in the city. So I think we often reminisce about, being able to take advantage of what we could while we were in the city.
Is Cafe Iberico, is it still there? I'm very familiar with it.
To be honest, I'm not even sure because it's probably been 10 years since I've been there. So favorite restaurant that I haven't visited recently, I suppose.
Okay. Yeah, I remember they had some great sangria and tapas, of course. So
yeah, and it was always packed to the gills and difficult to get a table. So
always. Okay, and so what about, where are you? Which suburb are you in?
I'm located in Glenview, so in the northern suburbs. I actually grew up in Glenview and then moved back to Glenview. My parents live 4 blocks away. I didn't plan it that way, but it works out well for childcare services.
I was going to say free babysitters.
Right. That's what it's all about.
Nice. And tell me about one of your most memorable vacations, Dr. Dan.
So I love to fish. So it's not a sexy vacation, but going up to Wisconsin and kind of spending a week by myself on the lake is something I love to do. Anytime I'm catching a lot of fish, things are going well.
Okay, nice.
How about you, Brad? What's your favorite restaurant?
Favorite restaurant? I'm gonna steer away from sushi because I usually pitch Lawrence Fish Market. I'll pitch it again. I've just pitched it again. I like Greek Islands in Greektown, kind of West Loop Greektown. It's just reliable. It's good every time. It's reasonable prices, the best service. So I will go with Greek Islands.
Okay. And your favorite vacation spot or exotic vacation that you've taken?
Yeah. So I'm dating myself, but about 20 years ago, my first job was in Pretoria, South Africa. And I was down there for, 7-8 months or so. And during the holiday break, I did a vacation around Southern Africa, all over South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and I believe that's it. And I slept out in the desert in Botswana. I remember it was 140 degrees and we pitched tents in the middle of the desert and there were hyenas around our tents at night. And
oh man,
it was crazy.
Yeah, it sounds like that would be nerve-wracking for me to hear hyenas in the background.
It's fine if you don't have to go to the bathroom. It's fine. It's when you have to go to the bathroom at night that's a problem.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you for those questions. Let's jump right in here. Again, this is Brad Etlin. I'm a realtor with Kale Realty. I have my guest today, Dr. Dan Hidaka with Harper Health. He's a concierge physician. And my first question for you, Dan, now that we've got to know you a little bit more, tell us what exactly is concierge medicine?
So concierge medicine, and let me talk about traditional medicine first. Traditional medical practice is based off of patient volume, really. The more patients you can get churning through the clinic, the more revenue is generated. And unfortunately, medicine is a business like any other. It's kind of ironic because in medical school, we don't get any teaching on the business of medicine. And then you kind of get out into practice and have to fend for yourself. So it's very much based upon how much volume you can push through the clinic. And medicine has become very efficient at pushing large numbers of patients through a clinic in a given day. I would argue it's become very impersonal. Concierge medicine is different in that you generate your revenue based off of a membership fee. It's called membership-based primary care or retainer practice model.
Okay.
So you generate your revenue from the membership fee and you don't bill insurance. It's outside of the insurance realm. And that's how you generate your revenue. And what it allows you to do is have a lot less patients and a lot more time to spend with the patients that you do have, a lot more accessibility, a lot more access to care.
Okay, no, really interesting. So is this like a new field?
So it's been around for at least 10 to 15 years, but it's gaining more and more traction. I think as people realize how overwhelmed the primary care system is and how difficult it is to get in with physicians, they're seeing the benefit of having direct access to a physician when they need it.
And, I think, my own experience, it can be a struggle to get through to doctors and nurses, from home. And isn't part of the problem really the fact that they don't get paid for those emails and those phone calls?
Right. So when I was in practice, I spent probably a third of my time charting, coordinating care, talking on the phone with patients or their family members, and it's all unreimbursed. Or the phone conversations sometimes are reimbursed at a really low rate, but essentially all of the legwork that you do for patients outside of the clinic doesn't count. It's not something that generates revenue. And so therefore it's not incentivized for you to do a lot of that. When you're in practice, it's more about how many patients can you see per day in clinic.
Right. And you really almost can't blame, doctors or physicians from not always being on the ball because, when you call an attorney, you're being billed. When you call most other professionals, you're being billed, right?
Right. I think it's difficult. I think we all have a sense of physicians that we're there to help people. And sometimes it feels artificial when we're putting up kind of barriers or constraints on what we're able to do for patients just to keep our own sanity at times. That's something that really led me into concierge medicine is I only know how to practice medicine one way, and that's comprehensively and accessibly. And so I think having to compromise how you're going to take care of patients is something that I wasn't ultimately willing to change because I think there's only one way to do good doctoring. Sir William Osler, who was a famous physician, said, listen to the patient, they'll tell you the diagnosis. So you can't hurry up and rush these patient visits or compartmentalize them where patients can only talk about one issue at a given appointment. You need to come back for issue number 2, need to come back for issue number 3. Nothing exists in a vacuum. And you kind of comprehensively have to take care of the patient. And that takes time. It takes time to build long-term relationships with patients. You can't do that in 10 to 15 minutes here and there. It's really something that's kind of fostered when you take time to get to know your patients.
Well, there's absolutely, I can definitely see the need for the service you provide. It's huge, and it's a huge gap in the health and medical care space. But can you give just like a concrete example for our viewers to understand? Tell us about a client who came to you because they were falling through the cracks and saw the value of you being able to oversee and continue to oversee their care and ensure that they're making the right decisions and seeing the right people.
So last night I had an interview with a former patient of mine who joined me at Harper Health now as of yesterday. And the past year has been very, very difficult with her. She's seen multiple specialists for a myriad of different complaints, and everyone is kind of looking at their their narrow spectrum of what they need to take care of, and no one was kind of treating her as a patient as a whole. And actually, it dawned on me what I think hopefully it will turn out to be the diagnosis when she was telling me about all the different symptoms she was having. You know, medicine is much about pattern recognition. It kind of fit a certain pattern, and I thought that, you know, or I do think that I've got a diagnosis for her, because I treat the patient as a whole and kind of get to listen to the entire story. So she was very much falling through the cracks. She'd seen multiple different specialists just within the same specialty, been given numerous things to try. And sometimes a patient just needs a reasonable ear to talk to say, these are the recommendations that I've gotten from all these different specialists. What do you think is reasonable? The other thing I would point out is that what's really lacking in today's healthcare environment is a sense of ownership over the patient. So you can see different specialists, but do they really own your problem? That's one thing that we do in concierge medicine. It doesn't matter if it's a heart issue or a lung issue or a GI issue. It's my issue, and I'm going to help you find the answers that you're looking for in seeking healthcare with consultants or specialists to try and get to the bottom of it.
Now, presumably, Dr. Dan, people kind of subscribe to have you on call on an annual basis. How does that work?
So we're on call 24/7, 365, within reason. I mean, I certainly think if patients are paging me at 1 a.m. for a refill on something that is coming due in 2 days, that's a different story. But I think it's really beneficial for patients to be able just to pick up the phone and text a question to their physician. There's no intermediary between me and them, or pick up the phone and give me a call. Sometimes you just need to talk to the doctor. You know, when the nurses would take messages before, sometimes it's like a game of telephone where the original message is nothing like what it was by the time it gets to your ears. So we're highly accessible. Usually we can get you same day or next day appointments with us. We certainly talk to you about your problems over the phone. A lot can be handled over the phone. Telehealth has become very big, as other forms of telecommunications have been during COVID. But we've always kind of leveraged telehealth with concierge medicine and treating patients, sometimes without even having to bring them into the office.
And Dr. Dan, folks that come to you, patients that come to you still need insurance? Is this kind of a value add beyond that?
Right. So this is a value add beyond that. So you still need your insurance should you need like a CAT scan or an MRI, or if you need to see a certain specialist. We would use your insurance to do that. Or if, God forbid, you're hospitalized, you need insurance for that. So but we don't accept any insurance, and we don't bill anything to insurance.
So this service seems so obvious, but this is the first time I've heard about it. So why isn't this more of a mainstream business?
I think it's going to be. Down at Northwestern, there are a number of different concierge practices that are already in existence. I just don't think patients are aware of it. The other thing is it requires you to have been in practice for maybe 10, 15, 20 years to be able to draw enough patients to start out as being a concierge physician, because it's not for everybody. But I think as medicine changes, and we can talk about the future of medicine, but as there's a deficit in primary care doctors right now. Not enough primary care doctors are choosing that specialty at a time when the baby boomer population is getting older and older and needing more and more care. So I think that what you're going to see is emergence of a secondary market being concierge medicine, with patients that have either had a bad experience in the traditional system or have chronic health conditions that really need to be managed.
And when you talk about the future of healthcare, tell me a little bit more about what that looks like.
Well, I think we could go a number of ways, right? And some of this is politicized. One thought is that we would have a universal healthcare system at some point where everyone has insurance, which I would argue would be a good thing. But I think in that type of market, you're going to have add-on services that people are going to look for, especially in the United States. And I would argue that that's what should happen. So I think you'd see an emergence of a secondary insurance market, or maybe secondary market of concierge medicine physicians. But when you look at it as a population as a whole, that's a problem that's going to need to be looked at and solved eventually, because not everyone's going to be able to pay a concierge fee and have direct access to their physician.
Tell me a little bit more about that. You know, just my default hearing that it's not covered by insurance is expensive.
Right.
Are you accessible to the average person?
So I think it depends where your priorities are. Our
Okay.
concierge fee is about $5,000 a year.
Okay.
When you think about just how much money you spend on cable, how much that is per month versus what the concierge fee is, it's all about your priorities. So I think certainly we're out of the reach of some patients, but for many, I think there's a lot of value for what we add.
Can those fees be deducted from like health spending?
Right. So you can take those fees from your health savings account, and you can
Okay.
also apply those fees toward your out-of-network deductible. So you're getting some credit for it. We can give you super bills from, say, your physical, and you can submit that and see if it will be reimbursed by your insurance. But that's generally something that we have the patients do.
Okay, well,
The
that's
other
significant.
the other thing I would say about the future of medicine is I think it's going to become more and more systematized. I think you're going to have these large hierarchies with the physician at the top and a lot of mid-level providers like nurses, physician assistants, nurse practitioners that are the ones that are client facing, that are seeing the patients. And I think physicians are going to have huge patient panels where they're not the ones that are interacting with the patient anymore. It's all the mid-level providers. So in many ways, I think gone are the days where you had a physician that you developed a long-term relationship with um, and are able to get in to see them when something acute happens.
Okay, got it. And my final question for you, Dan, or Dr. Dan, is, we're living in a crazy world called COVID, which I don't have to educate you about, but how has that impacted, changed things for your practice?
Well, it's changed things the way it's changed things for everybody. We're trying not to bring patients that are ill into the office. We're taking temperatures when patients come to the office. In many ways, though, we've been insulated from the financial issues with COVID because of the membership fee being there. We're not beholden to the volume that we would need to be seeing in order to pay the rent at the end of the day. I think one of the services that I think it's been of great comfort to our patients to know that they can pick up the phone and call their doctor when they've potentially been exposed or when there's 6 degrees of separation. They're not quite sure whether they should be tested or not. One of the things that Dr. Harper, who's the founder of the practice, does is he does a weekly blog with a lot of really, really good information just in terms of what our take is on COVID, what kinds of behaviors you should be avoiding or adopting. I think we've been a good resource to our patients through this time.
Excellent. And final question, Dr. Dan, which hospital are you affiliated with, or how does that work?
So I'm on staff at Northwestern Memorial Hospital downtown, and I'm also getting privileges at North Shore University in the North Shore. So I'm going to be opening a practice on the North Shore. So as part of that, it was good to get credentialed within that system.
Good stuff. And where can our audience find you if they want to learn more?
So a good resource is the website, Harper Health, www.harper-health.com. Or you can call the main number at 1-855-947-7371 and speak with our business manager. And schedule a one-on-one with a doctor to kind of talk more about what you think you might be looking for in a physician.
Awesome. Well, so it's such a fascinating area that I really knew next to nothing about before today. So really appreciate you coming on and telling us about concierge medicine and opening our eyes to what that involves.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
You bet.
So to flip things around and ask you a bit about what you do, Brad.
Sure.
True or false, first-time homeowners need a 20% down payment to buy?
The answer is a definite false. And the reason for that is there are many, many programs out there that allow a first-time home buyer to come to the closing table with as little as 3% down.
Okay.
So you could be buying a $400,000 first home or condo and come to the table with 12 grand, sometimes even less. Working with an experienced real estate agent, there's different ways of doing that, and that's my job, is to talk with first-time home buyers early on. Not 2 weeks before they're ready to buy. I like to talk to people a year before, because there's a lot of things that we can do, from improving your or strengthening your credit score to increasing cash reserves to helping to manage expectation about what's really within your affordability range. There's so many things that we can do early. And I mean, literally just talk, have a coffee, have a Zoom or a FaceTime. But there's a lot of things we can do to keep your closing costs down and enable you to really renters to get into the market. And, it could be something small that's, a condo for, $150,000. I mean, there's a lot of ways of getting into the market and starting to realize not only to do better in terms of building equity from a home as opposed to paying a landlord's mortgage. You're paying your own mortgage and building equity, but there's also often tax savings that renters can realize just by owning, regardless of the size of the home.
So what is the ideal time to contact a real estate agent then? Some people may it may come last minute, maybe there's a job change and they've got to move. Other people may be thinking of that for quite some time before they would enlist the services of a realtor.
Yeah, listen, sometimes people don't plan a year in advance. That's fine. I work with clients as soon as a couple days before presenting an offer, and I work with many clients 12, 18, even 24 months out. Someone maybe who just got their first corporate job and has been renting through college and their early professional years know that maybe they know that they're not ready now. They're despite having a good job, they might not have the cash they need, any cash. So I like to talk to people as early as possible. And part of the reason is it's really important to align my clients with the right lenders, because particularly in such a hot housing market, the right lender literally saves and kills deals. Because what we're seeing is a lot of the lenders out there are so overwhelmed, particularly with refis, but also purchase loans, that they're falling behind, they're dropping the ball, and they just don't have the infrastructure in place to deal with such a massive surge in applications for refis and mortgages. So I want to put you in touch with the people that are going to get you your pre-approval in a quick, in a short turnaround, that are going to keep the transaction, on course, and then are not going to create unnecessary tensions in a buy or sell transaction.
What would you say is important to look for in a realtor when you're picking a realtor?
Sure. So there's a number of, I would say most of them are really personality traits, the things you need to find. When you're looking for a realtor, an agent, a broker, one of my biggest pointers would be notice right away how responsive they're being. If you're shooting a broker, an agent, a text and hearing back from them 2 days later, think about it. That's probably going to be like that throughout the transaction. Is your agent, and there's a lot of great agents out there, but there's a lot of agents that are not so great. So are they meeting your needs? Are they communicating effectively with you? Are they being honest with you, or are they just trying to close a deal? Why people come to me and why my customers come back to me is because I'm honest, I'm reliable, I respond to them almost immediately, always. I'm there for them, and I'm there to serve them and help them find what they're looking for.
It almost sounds like concierge medicine.
It really does, actually. Maybe we need to do some co-marketing.
Well, you never realize when you're going through training, but you're just in a different customer service industry, being a physician. So
pretty much. Well, I go to school for a lot fewer years than you did.
Right. A lot less debt, importantly. So true or false, the housing market is going to crash. So if I'm renting now, I should just wait before buying.
So thanks for the question, Dr. Dan. So no one knows if or when the housing market's going to crash. Anyone that tells you they know that, first of all, cannot be trusted. Just like no one knows when if or when the stock market's going to crash. It's an unknown. At the same time, keep in mind that the housing market has been strong for about 12 years straight. here in Chicago anyways, there's been considerable growth from where we were, after the crash in '08. So, the chances are there will be a correction in the housing market at some point. It's just really a question in my mind, is it going to be in a year, or is it going to be in 3 years? No one knows. No one knows. But I would say if you've been renting and paying, what I like to say, paying your landlord's mortgage, you're trying to pay your own mortgage is the goal. Look at the interest rates right now. You can look yourself, or I can do a comparison for you on a Zoom meeting or whatever. But interest rates are so low that it really almost always makes more sense to buy, even if prices fall a few percent over the next few years, 5%. If you look at what you're paying now in rent versus what your mortgage payment is going to be, even with a very small down payment, you're going to be saving money. And just remember, especially if you plan on staying in that home for 5-10 years, you're going to be locked in at that 3%-ish rate, right? So that rate's going to stick with you.
Right. So we kind of already touched on this, but true or false, all mortgage lenders offer the same loan products and service?
The answer is false. Many lenders out there, hundreds, actually thousands, of lenders with many different loan products out there, some for veterans, some for modest to low income families, many products out there and options. So I like to talk again with my clients very early to understand what their goals are, to help them look at their financial situation, to align them with the right loan officer, financial advisor, accountant, and so forth. I have a holistic network of people that can help you put you on the right path towards home ownership.
There's a lot of similarities between medicine and real estate, I'm learning here, talking with you.
For sure.
True or false, I have a job, so I won't have trouble getting a mortgage. I'll just look at my financial picture when I'm ready to make an offer on my dream home.
The answer is a definite false. And the reason I say that is I can't tell you how many times people have come to me and said, I'm earning 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. I've got massive cash reserves in the bank. And then they have a weak credit score. And all of a sudden, there's a big roadblock in the road. So that's one of the reasons why I say, let's talk early. There's a lot of things that have to align in order to be a homeowner. And my job is to coach you and position you for success. I've had other clients that have huge cash reserves and savings, great jobs, and they have no credit at all. Folks that have immigrated within the past 3 to 5 years, never had any debt, which is great, but at the same time, they have no credit report at all. And that's a problem because for most of the lenders that are selling to the Fannie Mae's of the world, the government type agencies that actually buy these loans once they're issued by your lender, they have all these requirements that have to be met. You have to have a credit score in this range for that mortgage, for that credit product. You have to have worked for this long. Your income must be at this level. The list goes on and on and on. So there's a lot of things that have to align, and it's my job to ensure that you're ready to buy when the time is right.
Yeah, I think there's much more involved in choosing a realtor and kind of guiding prospective home buyers through the process than I initially would think about when I think about a realtor.
For sure.
So, true or false, all real estate agents operate in the same way?
That is, again, false. Different realtors have different styles. And again, there's a lot of great agents out there. My style is to be responsive, to educate you, to help you make good decisions. So, and this is just natural, but before you've gone down that path, you just don't know. And this is 98% of first-time home buyers that work with me are, learn about things that they wouldn't have otherwise learned about had they not been working with a broker that's attentive to their needs and their financial situation and their needs in terms of housing. So you know me well enough to know that I'm an easy guy to talk to. I'm low pressure. I'm helpful. I'm able to educate my clients and my colleagues, and I enjoy it. So it's, no question is ever stupid with me. No question's ever stupid. I respond almost immediately with all my clients, and I have a good time with it.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you really do what you like, which is important. What's your favorite part of your job?
Favorite part of my job is seeing the ear-to-ear smiles on my client's face when they're in that first home. That it just happened, had a closing on Friday, and this young family with little kids finally got into their first home, and it's a beautiful home, and they're just, it was a lot of work to get them there, because the lending standards with there's increased lending standards out there that buyers need to meet now with all the craziness around COVID. So there's a lot of hurdles we had to overcome, but we got there, and now they're in their home. The beautiful family with little kids, and they're happy as can be. And so, despite all the stress and curveballs that purchasing a home can entail, they're just so happy, and I'm just so happy that I was part of it.
Yeah, no, that's great that you have that in your work. I have that in my work too, and I think
Sure,
don't ever take it for granted, is what I guess I would say to myself.
sure.
True or false? Only rich people can become landlords.
The answer is false. So I know a lot of people that I meet, ask me about multi-unit rental investment properties or flipping homes and that type of thing. And I think most are surprised to learn that you don't have to be wealthy. It's not only, the uber rich that are landlords. There's ways of buying properties that are already generating revenue, that make it easier for you to qualify for a mortgage for an investment property. So, for example, on your typical 4-unit rental property, apartment building, you can take 75% of the income that's already coming in to the landlord on that property can be counted as toward the income that you need to qualify for that mortgage.
Okay.
So really, you just need to have 25% of the investment property mortgage. You have to have the personal capacity to cover that 25%, in order to qualify for the mortgage. So if that 4-unit property is 500,000, you need to show that you have additional cash from your normal job to cover a mortgage of $125,000. And with 3% interest, that's very, very reasonable. So, particularly with mortgage rates so low, it's a great time to become an investor, a landlord. And, I have property managers, I have residential, commercial lenders in my network, the attorneys, the financial advisors, the CPAs. I have all of them in my network, and we work together and we help you become a landlord.
Yeah. There's something not a lot of people think about in terms of investments.
Right. And I think the presumption, the reason is people just assume it's complicated and you have to be rich. My job is to take the complexities out of it by educating you and helping others educate you. I'm not going to educate my clients about the details of tax benefits of being a landlord or a property owner. That's not my job, but I know the guys and the women CPAs that know this, that can educate my clients. And I have the financial advisor that can provide recommendations on loan types. And then I have the lenders. So it's all in this network. And my job is to be kind of the QB, to be the quarterback and align my clients with all of the experts they need in order to make basic decisions to get into investing in real estate. And of course, I help them on the transaction side. But it's definitely doable. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Is there like a niche in terms of being a realtor, like a certain location where you would want people asking about, just in terms of knowing the market locally, versus maybe somewhere where you haven't sold as many homes?
Sure. So I really do operate all around the Chicagoland area. Clients, as far west as Aurora and Naperville, as far north as Northbrook, Highland Park, North Shore area, and of course the city of Chicago. I have clients that buy on the south side, on the west side. Most of my experience there is on the multi-unit investment property work, but other than that, I help people sell homes on the North Shore, buy homes in the city, and invest throughout.
All right.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for the questions, Dr. Dan. Great having you again.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much, and I hope we can do this again. Thank you to our audience. It's been a enjoyable session for me. I hope it was one for you as well. Again, this is Brad Etlin. I'm a broker with Kale Realty. I focus on both residential and commercial, and my guest today, Dr. Dan Hidaka with Harper Health, medical concierge. Hope you enjoyed the session, Dan. Have a great afternoon, and we will see you tomorrow morning.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Take care.